Look, there have been discussions floating around today about cuts to the NDIS to pay for this. There's also been discussion about completely scrapping the stage 3 tax cuts. Do you think either of these suggestions have merit?
Look, I think the NDIS was raised in the context of any program across government that potentially should be looked at, and I think that's right. I think there's unlimited wants, but there's only limited resources. No one's advocating for specific cuts anywhere. I think what Peter Dutton is saying is that we need to have a discussion around all government programs and find efficiencies where we can, because there is always waste, and so we want to reform the bad and preserve the good. NDIS is a good program and it helps thousands of Australians across the country. But we do have to be realistic. We can't just spend and spend and spend. We do have to have a budget. We have to keep the budget, and that's why we'll be holding this government to account going forward.
Is the timeline for these submarines, for acquiring them, too late? I mean, we're talking 10 years' time before we even get the first 2.
Well, Sharri, you ask a really important question. It is 10 years between now and the delivery of the first Virginia-class submarine, but importantly, by 2027, we're going to have a forward rotation of 4 US submarines and 1 UK submarine through HMAS Stirling in Perth. That is very, very significant, and that is to hedge against the risk of conflict over the next decade or so. There's also the DSR next month, and the government will be announcing its plan to protect Australia over the next 5 to 10 years as well. So we'll be watching closely for that. But I think it's really good news that we are going to have an increased US-UK presence in the West Coast, billions of dollars of investment into Stirling.
Yeah. And that rotation, as Biden said, begins this week even. Now, Andrew, I interviewed Scott Morrison a week ago, and he said that realistically, Australia will never be able to defend ourselves against China. He said the only nation on earth that actually could is the United States. If you were Defence Minister, and you're Shadow Defence Minister now, if you were Defence Minister, would you like to see Australia be able to defend ourselves? And how high would we need to increase our defence spending in order to make that happen?
I think, Sharri, the most important thing is that we have always been a country that has worked with our mates in alliances. So whether it's with the UK or the US, whether it's with France, whether it's with any of the countries in our region, we always work as part of a team because we are a middle power of 26 million people. We can't do things on our own. And that's why collective security is so important to us. Now, by investing in these submarines, we're actually increasing our hard power and we'll be able to make a greater contribution as part of the team in the region. So it's really important that our neighbours understand that. We're helping them by acquiring this technology as well. Certainly we want to be able to defend ourselves, but it comes back to being a good team player and looking after your mates.
So it's right that we should always need to rely on our allies, the United States and Britain?
Well, I think we should always forge relationships. I mean, I'm a parliamentarian, I do politics. I'm always building alliances and coalitions, and so too do nations, and that's how you secure yourself. That's just a fundamental part of the job. And no nation can stand alone, and particularly with a country as big as China, God forbid we ever got into some sort of conflict, we certainly would be dependent upon our regional partners to defend ourselves.